Look at this poor freak.
Hey, at least he's in one piece.
Yeah, some guys have all the luck.
Right.
Nope, no tag.
We'll give him a John Doe. Protestant.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. Dan clapped right, everybody.
I clapped once, not twice this time.
Welcome to Shack Out Back, episode 30, an auspicious 30 for Shack Out Back. How are you doing this fine evening, Daniel?
I'm doing good. I was making the thumbnail for the YouTube video, and I noticed that we're on episode 30, and I was like, holy shit, that's a lot. That's a lot of episodes. I was also scrolling through Spotify after seeing our Buzzsprout shit, the update that it gives you weekly, and I was like, wow, we have a lot of stuff on Spotify.
Do you mean like a lot of episodes or a lot of views, or?
It's like a lot of not a bad amount of views, but also just like episodes, like content wise, it's not dry.
We have a good background. We've been uploading consistently for over a year now.
I think we're gonna take off soon, and I'm gonna be able to quit my job.
That's the dream. That's the dream. And do we want to start? I'm a little low energy today. Jim's haven't been having a rough couple weeks, so Jim's a little rough energy.
Jim watched Enemy Mine, and now he's been thinking about life. He's been contemplating.
He's been contemplating impregnating an asexual alien.
They impregnate themselves, Jim. Did you not hear him in the movie? He said, "When it's time, it's time. There's no choice."
Humans choose. Drax don't, or whatever he said.
He said that, except probably better script writing than that.
Yes.
But yeah, this week we're going to be talking about Enemy Mine. It is a 1984 movie by Wolfgang Petersen. The guy is the coolest name in the world. Wolfgang
Petersen.
Yeah.
It's a movie that rode the coattails of Star Wars, I think, and tried
it did.
and tried to do something completely different, which I enjoyed.
And they definitely made a lot of money back, and they definitely didn't go bankrupt.
They definitely didn't dig a big pit in the middle of the set and throw oodles and oodles of cash in and light it on fucking fire.
Oh, it's so sad to talk about. But first, let's discuss what we've done the last couple weeks. Jim, explain to me what you have been up to. Explain to the folks.
The folks? Jim hasn't been doing very much. Jim, this is the piddliest Jim list I've seen so far. Jim's been working a lot, so...
Jim's usually watched 15 movies and read 10 books, and he's always talking about all his stuff, but he's done nothing.
Well, I read a couple books. I watched Jojo Rabbit, which, have you seen Jojo Rabbit, Dan?
Yeah, that's the one with Adolf Hitler and the little kid.
Yes, I think it's my least favorite Taika Waititi movie I've seen.
Yeah, I could see that.
It was good, but it's just like, it didn't grab me like Hunt for the Wilder People or the vampire one, or even like Thor Ragnarok. Thor Ragnarok had a good energy to it that this movie didn't have.
Jojo Rabbit, I thought it was going to be more like out there and more like whimsical and stuff, and it really wasn't. Like the scenes in the trailers that showed Hitler, that was kind of it. Like they kind of just played those scenes in the trailers, and that was all that he kind of did.
Dan likes a whimsical Hitler. That's what Dan likes.
I like a Hitler that's like jolly and whimsical and magical for the children. But in this movie, he really wasn't.
In an alternate timeline, Santa could have been replaced by Hitler, Dan.
That's true.
I read some books on shift. I read Leaving Cheyenne. I read the Thalia trilogy by Larry McMurtry. And the first book was okay. The second book, Leaving Cheyenne, was pretty damn good. It was pretty weird, but it's pretty good. It's about three people who are in like a sexual relationship over like 45 years. And
is this the cow one? Is this the one where he has sex?
No, that's the next one. That's the next one. In this one, it's like four people who like two guys like the same girl, and then they go off and do other stuff during their lives, but like they all come together, and like she has like their kids, and like they're very codependent on one another. It's a very cool story to read.
Yeah.
And they adapted it into a movie. I think it was called Leaving Cheyenne 2, or it's called something different, but they like changed it so like they weren't like having sex with each other while they were married and different things like that. Like it kind of took the wind from under the sails from what I read in the synopsis, so I didn't like that. But the book was good. And then I read The Last Picture Show, which is the last book in the Thalia trilogy, and that's the one where I sent Dan a little excerpt from it, and it was about at one point a bunch of kids like cornered a fucking milk cow and fucked it. So that was a little messed up. But other than that, it was a good book. It was very sad.
Other than the cow fucking.
It was a good book. It was a very sad book, too. It was about, like, loss of youth and
Loss
like
of cow.
missed opportunities and stuff, and being lost in a cow. Yes.
Vile.
The last few days I watched Joe Pera. Joe Pera is a comedian. He has a show called Joe Pera Talks to You, and I watched a lot of videos that he was in, and he's just like a very calming man. It was very nice to listen to someone who's like has a very calm like approach to comedy and stuff like that, like very soothing. It was almost like watching Bob Ross do comedy.
Yeah.
It was very nice. I kind of want to watch his show too, so I might just stream that or whatever. But he was also on Townsend's. Do you know what Townsend's is, Dan?
Good God, Jim. I have no clue, but I bet you're going to tell me.
Townsend's is like a YouTube channel about a guy. His name is John Townsend. He just does a lot of like colonial stuff, like colonial food from like the 1800s. And like he makes like little shacks and uses like old tools, different stuff like that. So Joe Pera was on an episode. He made a stool and he read a little chapter from a book. Yeah, it was very like wholesome content, which I enjoyed.
Jim Townsend's has an online store. You can get mushroom ketchup and handmade mugs. And
Yeah, he does.
pipes.
He makes like colonial stuff in a colonial way and sells it online.
That's cool.
Too. Yeah, it's
Men's
very cool.
linen work cap. I need a work cap.
You should check out his YouTube channel. It's very cool. And I made a plan. I hatched a plot that Dan knows about, and Brandon called me a sociopath for doing it. But I had like all my consoles and my tube TV set up in the living room for the last couple months.
Oh,
in my new
yes.
place. And I just haven't used them at all. So I thought like, maybe I'll put them in a more immediate spot. So I took like all of my HD consoles and I put them on. I made 2 little AV carts out of like Amazon Marketplace, like kitchen cart things. I bought 3 of them and turned them into 2 carts with enough shelves. But like the one on my right has a tube TV I bought with component in it. Has like N64, all my SD consoles, N64, Genesis, Super Nintendo, PS2, and then to my left I have PS4, PS3, Xbox 360, and Wii connected to another TV. So that's on either side of my desk. So I want to have this space for like gaming, and then my TV for like movies, and then I have another desk for like writing and books and stuff. I want to keep stuff separate in my life, which I think is a good idea.
He's boxed in his gaming room. He's going gaming.
I'm in my game station, the Game Station podcast station. But that's it for me for the last couple weeks. It's been a little bit of a challenging couple weeks for old Jim. Jim's had a rough go of it the last couple weeks, so he's just like taking her easy. So what have you been up to, Dan?
Jim's just been hanging out. Jim, I just want to say before we start, Alan Wake 2 has been, I know 8 seconds ago it was said to be being announced, but now it is officially announced, Jim.
Dan wasn't
Alan
listening
Wake
to anything
2.
I said. He was just like watching the Game Awards on his second monitor.
I have Jeff Keighley on my 8 monitors surrounding me, and he's screaming at me about Blizzard Activision.
No, he's not. He's doing the opposite of that.
Either being silent about it, which is good. Fuck him. Fuck Blizzard and Activision. Alan Wake 2 is a fully announced, and I'm really fucking excited because I have like 1 million hours in that game. Jim knows. God, if I could go back and watch how I got those many hours on it, I'm so confused.
You didn't. You left it. You left
Jim,
it running.
I
You
didn't.
fucking idiot.
Okay. What have I been doing in the last 2 weeks? I picked up my book again. You mentioned it last episode, and I got to think, and I was like, you know what? Jim's right. I really haven't been reading very much. So I started reading again. I'm about 3/4 of the way through my book, An Orchestra of Minorities, and I am quite
still reading that
enjoying
one?
it. Yeah, I got a little sidetracked in the middle of it and started reading some manga. I started reading quite a bit more One Punch Man and got caught up on it. Started looking at Baki again. I got caught up on that from a couple episodes ago and was just flipping through and reading random stuff.
I forgot to say that I read Witchfinder #4, like the trade paperback #4 too. It had some interesting art in it, but it definitely wasn't as good as the one that I talked about on our Hellboy episode, Lost and Gone Forever. I still think that's one of the best Hellboy comics.
What else have me been doing? I started a lot of anime this season. There was a drought for about a week. I was like, man, I really don't have much to watch. And then I started watching JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 6 premiered on Netflix, and boy howdy, I'm loving it. Me and
I
Cassie
saw
are
that.
watching it.
Do you enjoy it?
Yes, Part 6 is one of my favorite parts. It is also the part that almost sunk JoJo, because it's an all-female cast, and people in the early 90s didn't like an all-female cast like that.
No,
pretty much all-female.
They liked the Baki approach where women were sexual objects, I bet.
Yes. And there's a lot of good stuff. Demon Slayer Season 2 just started, like 2 or 3 days ago, and I absolutely love Demon Slayer, so me and Kaz watched that last night to start it, and amazing. And then Local Trash Platinum End is... Oh, it's just getting lower
What the
reviews.
fuck is that called?
Platinum
What is
End.
that?
It's made by the Death Note creators, and it's his lowest rated work by far.
What else has he made besides Death Note?
Bakuman. So Bakuman is a manga about kids writing manga.
Oh,
And
you've
it's
told me about that.
really good.
No, you've told me about that. That sounded good.
And so Platinum End is the manga in Bakuman which they are writing. So it's a manga based on
Within
a
a
manga
manga.
in a manga. And it's not good. It's like trash, but I'm watching it and enjoying it because it's stupid. It's really dumb. It's about like 13 people are picked to be god candidates and they get given angels and then they have 999 days to like figure out who's going to be the god among them, and there's like battles and people can kill each other and stuff. And it's so edgy, Jim. Like, it's so
Sounds edgy. Well, Death Note's fucking edgy.
Yeah, this is like the reviews for this aren't good, but I'm liking it. It's dumb.
I was thinking of this the other night when you were talking about anime. What is your favorite anime? It's that one with the kid with the red hair you had the poster of. What is that called? I don't remember.
It's Gurren Lagann.
Gurren Lagann. Okay.
That is my favorite anime, bar none. It's Gurren Lagann. I've watched it a lot of times, and I absolutely love it, and I want them to do something else.
You
In
found
the
a
universe,
DVD of it or
potentially?
something, didn't you? When we went to GameStop one time?
Yeah, I got the, what did I get? I got, I got the series on DVD or something, and it came with, like, the music album, like, really rare to get, because no one really owns the license right now. It's kind of in limbo, so it's kind of unfortunate.
What else have you been doing?
It's absolutely amazing. My girlfriend finished her ornament making, so we cleaned up. We did a little winter cleaning because she's had the table kind of occupied, so we tore down all that stuff and repotted some plants and stuff like that. We got into watching Better Call Saul again too. We fell behind on that pretty hard. I don't know why we stopped watching it, but we
What
got
season
back
are you
into
on?
it. And just 2. We're like halfway through season 2. That show gives me heart palpitations. It stresses me out.
It's good.
But yeah, it's really good. And we watched Enemy Mine, Jim. Let's discuss
we
it, because
did.
I love Enemy Mine.
We're getting into Enemy Mine. So on the outset, I really liked this film. I feel like it was funny and weird and stuff, but I feel like the beginning and the end are also good, but they're very of their time. What do you think of the beginning and end of this film?
I forgot how fucking weird the end was. The end is so tonally different, and especially the very, very end when they're wrapping up. It wraps up in like 2 seconds. You could tell they had no more budget. They already had no more budget
They were
halfway
like,
into the movie.
matte painting, a little bit of movement,
Yeah,
slap
that's
that
it.
ending
That's
on.
it. They were like, get it out, and it just ships instantly. But the opening too, I definitely thought like they spent all that money on scenes that were in the movie once, of all the guys running to their ships and boarding all their separate ships, and they were very trying to be Star Wars-esque with the co-pilot that sits behind you and stuff.
And the flying around and all that shit. And
Yeah,
getting
that
in
never
dogfights.
came up again.
Yeah. So this movie takes place in an Earth like 2 centuries in the future or something. And it takes place like, it's like the Dead Space thing where humanity is spreading to different planets and they encounter like another species. In this case, they're called the Drac or something. Is that what they're called? The Drac?
Yeah, the Dracs, yeah.
And then they just get in a big war and they don't really understand each other. And in this film, a guy like goes after a Drac and crash lands on a planet and tries to kill him. And then they have to like live together for years in order to survive. And it's like a heartwarming tale of like, yeah, we may be different, but we're like similar and we can support
We're
each
the
other. in a
same.
way. Yeah.
Jim, you just got to look at the tagline, and that's all you need to know. It says
What's the tagline?
enemies because they were taught to be, allies because they had to be, brothers because they dared to be.
Lovers
That's it,
because they
Jim.
dared to be.
Lovers, essentially. But yeah, this movie follows humans and Dracs, and humans are expanding into the solar system, you know, and then they find a bunch of planets that Dracs have already, like, laid stake to, they said, and they're like, humans are like, nah, fuck them. So then there's a big war between the two. And they're like humanoid. There's not
They're
really
like
a good way
frog
to describe
people.
them. Yeah, they're like, yeah, he calls them Toad Face.
Yeah, they're very like, because the makeup in this film is one of the best things about
Oh,
it.
it's so good.
And I for sure thought there were just going to be like one alien that we saw,
Bro,
or
there's
2
so
aliens
many.
that we saw, and then the last 20 minutes of the movie we see
So
16
many.
like plus
All
fucking
unique.
Drac.
All different,
Yep.
all moving around, none of them shot from far away. You see them, and it's like, yeah, that's why they were over budget by $20 million.
But the Drac that he crash lands with, it's like, I don't remember the actor's name is, but he does an amazing job of like
Louis Gossett Jr. and Dennis Quaid.
Dennis Quaid. Yeah, I know Dennis Quaid was like Dennis Quaid plays like the gun ho like I'm gonna kill everything at the beginning, like the very like Starship Troopers-esque character at the beginning, and he slowly
100%.
learns not to be. But a lot of what sells this movie is like how serious the source material is taken. Like Dennis Quaid does a great job of like conveying feeling and stuff in this film, and the makeup for Louis Gossett Jr. is that his name was just like fucking excellent.
It's so good. Like it's not static either. Like stuff's moving around on his head. He has
his
those
head
air
sacs are
and
inflating.
stuff. They're inflating. And he's like they gave him a lot of things that are like, yeah, this is kind of weird and alien. He pronounces words very specifically, and when he laughs, he like grits his teeth and spits
titters.
through his mouth a little bit and titters. And it's they didn't shy away from it not just being a humanoid alien that completely speaks fluently and understands things. Like he has to learn the language, and they kind of gloss over learning the language a little bit. But they keep, like, he doesn't understand certain aspects of human culture. He thinks Mickey Mouse is a great prophet on the planet Earth.
Well, Dennis Quaid had
Dennis
like a
Quaid
saying
tells
or
him,
something.
yes.
He says like, he has like a little like saying or something, and then he's like, who said that? A great
It's
human
something
prophet?
Disney
And it's just
said,
like,
yeah. And he was like,
just like, Mickey Mouse. But like, I like what this movie does with that too, because they are like trying to understand each other, especially what's his name, Jerry, the guy who's on the planet with. Yeah, Jerry's trying to understand Dennis Quaid, and Dennis Quaid like says, "Oh yeah, Mickey Mouse," and then when they get in a fight later on, Dennis Quaid says like your religion's like bullshit or something. He says, "Well, Mickey, what did he say? Mickey Mouse is a great stupid oaf."
Mickey Mouse is a great big dope. And then like an hour later in the movie, when they're apologizing for shit, he goes, I am sorry, I should not have said that about your Mickey Mouse. And he never corrects him.
Well, Dennis Quaid, like, he says that, and he's mad, and then Jerry says that to him, and he just breaks. You can see him start to laugh, and he finally, like, stops laughing and just turns around.
Your Mickey Mouse is one big stupid dope. I love it. Yeah, they're talking about Jerry's, like, Bible that he has. I forget what he calls it, but it's essentially like his Bible that he carries around his neck, and they're talking about student-master relationships. But, yeah, so they have to live on this planet, and it's very, very inhospitable.
It reminded me a little bit of the Kunari from Dragon Age. Have you ever played Dragon Age games, Dan?
I 100% have, and the Kunari rings a bell in my mind. What are
Kunari are like the big... What Dragon Age games did you play?
I have definitely played the first one. I don't think I played Inquisition. I think I played 1 and 2.
So the Kunari are like the big gray guys with horns who, like, attack like different places, but they're very like religiously, they have a very strict religious doctrine where they talk about scripture and like and different things that are written by like their religion and stuff to keep themselves in check. So that kind of reminded me of the Drac, where like they have a very like intense like cultural religion, and like they hold like the sacred text around their neck, and they have a very like festooned into their culture, right? Because the last thing that like Jerry says, spoilers, before he dies, is that like, yeah, like when my kid is born, you have to take him to the planet and like be there to say like this is his father and his father's father.
Yeah, their lineage was a really big part in this movie, in the Drax culture. Their lineage, like he asked, and it's this whole movie is based around like, this is not an action movie. This is a drama piece. Like this is except for the last 10 minutes. Except for the last 10 minutes where they're kicking guys into molten lava
when it turns into Indiana Jones.
Yeah, when it turns into Indiana Jones. But they're sitting around. What was I going to say? They're sitting around, and Jerry asks, "What the hell was his name? Dawich. That's it. Yeah, Dawich." And he asks him like, what is his dad and dad before him did, and he was like, well, my dad was like an IT guy, like an IT sales guy, and my mom was a waitress, and I think my grandparents were farmers. And I think she was like, my grandmother was like a typist or something, like a typewriter.
No, he literally said a good cook.
A good cook. That's what he said. You're right. A good cook. And then in the Drax mind and Jerry's mind, he says, okay, so you are
son of whatever his dad's name was.
Son of you think farmer, and daughter of whatever his mother's name is, pronounced good cook. And it's like, that's her title.
And then
Yeah.
he didn't have names for he didn't say what his grandparents' names were, so fucking Jerry didn't know, so he just called them grandma and grandpa.
Grandma and grandpa, grandmother, good cook, and grandfather, you think farmer. But yeah, like the Drac could recall their lineage for like hundreds of years, and all the namesakes go down and pass down from one to one to one. So Jerry's Jerry's line was very very pronounced. That was very important to him.
I feel like with these aliens, right? Like they wouldn't be able to exist if they just had one child their entire life. Like that.
Yeah, you brought that up. I never thought about that, but it makes sense.
that wouldn't be a species that could be able to exist, because even like mourning geckos in real life, mourning geckos can procreate asexually, and they like a mourning gecko will give birth to more than one mourning gecko. So I'm assuming like they give birth like 2 or 3 times during their life in order to keep their species going.
That's very interesting. Like, I wish I could produce asexually. I would have a little kid and name him Danny Jr.
He would be an exact clone of you, because it would just be based on your DNA.
That's so sick. But yeah, so the Drac reproduce asexually, like you were saying, and they're living on this planet, and it's insanely inhospitable. Like throughout you see
Dennis Quaid and him crash land on this asteroid that's like
it's shit.
It's got rivers of acid and just like shitty like little gullies and stuff.
Comets will rain from the skies and smash into
That's
all
the
the
stupidest
planet.
part of this movie. Me and you had like a fucking disagreement about this, because
Jim doesn't understand that their house was comet proof.
they get bombarded by comets and stuff, and there's these little like little
turtle things,
little turtle alien guys who get eaten and stuff by them and shit, and then they like Dennis Quaid is like holding one of the turtle shells above his head or something, and sees it get hit by a meteorite. He's like, look, it won't get hit by it can't bust through a meteorite. So he like
it's comet proof.
He makes a house out of fucking sticks and then puts the turtle shells on top of the sticks, and somehow that keeps comets away. It doesn't make any fucking sense. It would just break the wood.
Basic science that he said, Jim, did he not say it's comet proof? And then you put it on something and it's comet proof. What aren't you getting here?
What do you feel about like the set design for like the human, like the space station and stuff like that?
I think that's where their money went. I think that's where the money got exhausted into the fire pit that they were burning it. Because you see the space station right at the very end for like, it goes, okay, he's shot, okay, now he's back on the space station, okay, now he's back on the planet, and that scene in the space station was like, here's a full-scale model of a ship, here's the door that blows off its hinges, here's the complicated operating room with moving parts.
I loved that
extras.
they had little like console. They had a whole
actual
room
consoles
where Dennis Quaid like comes back and he's like being like recombobulated by some kind of fucking like medical droid. And he's in like a bubble. He has a huge like bubble, and there's like robot arms operating on him. And this was like 1983, and there's huge like panels with like CRTs embedded in them in plastic and stuff. And it's very futuristic. And you see it. I think you're on the space station like cumulatively for like maybe less than 10 minutes.
Like no time at all.
And those sets look like they cost like $1 billion to make.
Well, yeah, so let's talk about the budget real quick. So this movie had a budget of $19 million. They only went over it by about 20 million, give or take. So, lots of money. And Jim, do you want to know how much they made in the box office?
$2 million.
Jim, they made 12 million in like ever. Like
that's not with like that budget also doesn't include like advertising
and yeah.
Yeah, all that
That's
shit,
a loose
too.
budget. So at least 50 million, I would say, for their total budget. Nothing. Like, it was a complete failure.
This is one of those movies like Dune that came out in like the 80s that like we're just trying to like capitalize on the
Star Wars, right?
Star Wars boom, and they just like, oh yes, we have another science fiction film with like different things in it. I think this movie would have been much better and better received and better remembered, because no one knows what the fuck this movie is.
I do, Jim. You
know. Do, but no one else does. You and Red Letter Media do, but that's it. And
yeah, that's why I wanted to do this, actually. Red Letter Media just did what was it, Half in the Bag or a review on this? It was a review
of it, yeah.
And it reminded me, I instantly saw the title and my mind flashed. I had a spasmodic seizure on the ground, and I recalled my memories of Enemy Mine throughout my childhood.
I just wish this was like advertised a different way, or like the movie didn't have like, I wish maybe like they could have just had the guy crash land on the planet. Like, you don't have to have the fucking space station shit. And all
I
this
don't know why
background
they
stuff.
did.
And like the dogfighting in space, like they could have like literally just had Dennis Quaid crash land on the planet and then start the movie there and expanded like maybe like there was a different group of people living on the asteroid, or maybe like the Drac are doing something else or shit like that. That would have been more interesting. And I still like, I know that when we watched the Red Letter Media video, they complained about the ending, but I enjoyed the ending. I don't know about
I didn't
you.
think it was bad at all. I didn't think it was bad. I think it was a huge tonal shift, but I don't think it was bad. It was funny. Like, I had a good time watching it.
Like Dennis Quaid, okay, so Dennis Quaid is stuck on this planet. Him and Jerry are very hostile to one another, but then they have to live together to survive. So they learn each other's languages, and and Dennis Quaid starts learning his religion and stuff like that. And then Jerry has to give birth because he's like asexual, needs to reproduce.
Oh,
and then
yes,
Jerry
he is.
dies in childbirth, and Dennis Quaid has to like rip him open with his bare fucking
Yes,
hands to
he
get
does.
his baby out. Which
He has
is
to get his
fucked.
little jammies out. Zammies.
Zemus, yeah, whatever the heck this
Zammies.
kid's name is, Zammies.
Zammies.
And he gets the baby out, and he raises the baby for a couple years, and he grows up really quickly. And then he gets like captured by this raiding party that's there, like mining
Miners,
the asteroid.
yeah,
Mining the
ex-miners
asteroid
or
for
something.
fucking rocks. I don't even know what they're fucking mining there. They're literally
They
just
were
like,
mining
picking
rocks,
out of the
Jim.
ground.
They had big baskets of rocks that then dumped into magma.
And somehow like they captured Zammies.
yes.
And because Zammies was like they had Drac slaves, and Zammies wanted to meet them, so they captured him.
Zammies
And then
like saw them do that, and he was like, "What the fuck?" And he ran up.
the guy from Blade Runner shoots Dennis Quaid, and Dennis Quaid like dies, and for
Yes.
somehow the fucking space station detects like his body is there.
I don't know. I don't know that piece.
And
I
he
don't
picks
know
up
why
his
the-
body.
yeah, I don't
Well, this
know.
leads also to one of my favorite scenes, one of your favorite scenes in the film, where they're put all the bodies in a fucking assembly line, and there's two guys like dumping them into space, and we approach this shot, and like one body goes down, and they're like, okay, what's the next one? They picks up a piece of paper, and he's like, this guy's agnostic, and he's like, well, no music
Oh,
then.
yes.
And they just give him a little like salute, and he flies at the fucking space chute.
They turn off like the religious music. Yeah, no music then. And then they see his body, and they say, no name. Guess it's a John Doe. Let's do a Christian funeral. And he turns on the music, and he puts on the little wreath over him.
And then he bursts out of the coffin, and then they figure out who he is.
Their future technology isn't that great. If they were gonna eject a live,
Well, somehow they detected that he was attacked on the planet and
I don't
picked
know
him
what that
up,
was
and
about.
then he like came back alive. Like all that shit of him
It
going
happened
back
so
up into
quick.
space was so like not necessary.
No, it was,
that was
so
so fucky.
quick.
Like that didn't need to happen at all.
I wanted to say I really like this whole movie. It cost $40 million for them to sit in a hut for 80% of the movie.
It's literally two dudes sitting in a fucking hut for 75% of the film.
Yeah, but
and it
Jim,
was
did
great.
You see
those parts were
turtles
awesome.
going along the ground? They cost a lot of money. They had to bioengineer, make a real life animal that they could shoot on. There was no wheels or anything.
There was two aliens in this, well, three aliens, but there's two creatures in this fucking film. There was little turtle guys, and there was like the sand pit monster.
A sand dragon with a tentacle that was
who like
very-
attacks Jerry and Dennis Quaid twice, and that's it. But like, yeah, there's just like a lot of elements of this film that just didn't need to be there. Because I sold it. Like, I was interested in like these two people like talking to one another and like working shit out, especially from such an alien perspective. It reminded me a lot of this movie called My Dinner with Andre. It's literally about a movie where two people sit down at dinner and fucking talk.
Yeah.
And I wish this movie was more of that. I do like he goes back up to space and he comes back down to save his son, basically. And then he just like Indiana Jones fights all the like space pirates, and he kicks the guy from Blade Runner. This is my favorite part of the movie. Dan laughed when it
This
happened.
is Jim's favorite part ever.
He kicks the guy from Blade Runner into like a vat of boiled metal, and then he like there's like a shot of him slopping into it. I'm like, okay, that's gonna be the end. You see his like melting fucking corpse try to get out of the fucking soup for a second. I'm like, oh my god, that's horrific. And then they cut away from it. It's only there for like a second, but it was hilarious.
I also liked when he kicked the dude into the mineral grinder. And it was like, okay, they'll cut away. And no, they showed his mangled body being crushed between a bunch of steel rods.
And there
as
was
he
a guy
got shoved in.
like looking at the rocks coming down the
Yes,
chute,
coming
and
out
he picks
the
up
other side.
he picks out a fucking ear, and then Dennis Quaid gets behind him and fucking stabs him in the neck or something. It was pretty
Oh my
gratuitous.
God.
I liked how gratuitous the ending was because
Yes.
it was fucking
It came
violent.
out of nowhere. Like the rest of the movie wasn't like happy-go-lucky. Like when that sand dragon thing grabbed him, it was pretty horrible. It was like ripping
that was
skin
pretty
off of their
horrific,
leg and
yeah.
stuff. But I wanted to say I love all the character moments in this movie. That's what this movie really is. I like when they're first talking and Jerry has them all tied up and he's kind of understanding the human language and Dennis Quaid points at his head and he's like, "This is my head." And Jerry's like, "This my head." And then Dennis Quaid is like, "That is your ugly head." And he starts to laugh at that for some reason. Oh, I love it all.
A lot of the subtext of this film was about like blind hatred and how like it's just not,
Yeah.
like it's just not a thing that should happen, and it's pretty. I don't think me and you need that lesson, but I see it like played out in day by day of people just being like racist for no reason or expecting a certain thing of someone for no reason. This movie is a lot of like we have more in common than you think, and it just like getting together and like trying to get through something and not like hating someone for no reason. That was like, that was the whole movie.
Jim, just remember in the year 2052 when you're stuck on a planet with an asexual alien, just remember you and him can be brothers if you dare to.
We can be lovers if we dare to too.
If you want to. But yeah, so Jerry's little kid, Zammies, I love him. I love this little kid. I don't know what the kid actor is. He's not listed in the major cast or anything. And he's like one of the main characters, like the last quarter of the movie.
Between after Dennis Quaid and Jerry, he has the most lines. Speaking lines.
Yeah, you're right. But I wanted to mention, I did some research of this movie, and did you know this movie is, for whatever reason, it's a cult following in Russia? It has like a cult following in Russia. I don't know why. It did really well in the Soviet Union.
Why? Well, I guess it's about
I don't know. I don't know.
It's about like coming together and like working
That's
shit
what the
out.
Soviet Union loves. They loved coming together with their allies.
No, the Soviet Union was about subjugation of people. Yeah, that's weird. It's like when
I have
movies,
no clue.
It's like when people tried, like, when Star Wars was coming out in 2015, they had a huge, like, marketing campaign in fucking China, and China
I was gonna say, yeah.
And China just fucking hates Star Wars and didn't watch it, and then they, like, watched the Warcraft movie to death. Like, they loved the Warcraft.
Oh my god, the new one.
To
Yeah,
death.
yes, they did. Jim, it's because... I don't want to get into Chinese politics right now. We'll stick away from that can.
What were you gonna say? No, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, all you have to do to get your movie big in China is just have scenes in China. That's why so many Western movies are just shoeboxing Chinese locations in. Like, all the new Transformers movies, for whatever reason, they either go to Shanghai or China or somewhere in the Chinese provinces for no reason, just because Chinese citizens like love to see their culture representative like that.
They want the money, Dan. That's what they want.
Oh, yeah. And the most egregious one, when I started to really recognize it, was in The Meg with, was it Jason Statham?
What the fuck is The Meg? Is that the movie about the shark?
The Meg was the movie about the Megalodon, and it was it? Jason Statham.
Okay.
And the movie was like, okay, we're in this underwater, big science center, and there's a Megalodon. Oh no, it got out from our area. Where's it going? It's going to the beautiful Chinese beach province here that has wonderful shorelines and great hotels, and it's really going to disturb.
And you can come here and spend your
vacations.
money.
I remember listening to that in the theater and really being like, "Oh my god, this is like fucked! Like this is so blatant."
What did you think about like the set dressing of this film? Because it was a ton. Oh,
it was beautiful. The sets in this film are beautiful.
Of like shots in the desert or something, or shots in like the steppes of somewhere, and they have like huge matte paintings like right in the background.
Oh,
some of it
so good.
Some of it was really noticeable, but like still the matte paintings were gorgeous. Like especially like I remember there's this one point where Dennis Quaid like goes away from Jerry and is just trying to figure out if there's anyone else around, and he starts like walking around. And you see like the breadth and depth of the asteroid and stuff, and it's really cool. That stuff is a lot better to me in terms of set design. Like the space station was impressive, but it just like looked expensive and looked like, like generic space station kind of thing.
Yeah, it was white and sleek, and I like when you mentioned there was the scene of them during the big ice storm where they were running around, and there was like dozens of shit falling over and exploding and comets hitting the ground.
Yeah.
And it was like, wow, I really hope they only had to do that scene once. They only got one chance at that. They destroyed their entire set and blew up shit, and it was like, wow, yeah, I really hope.
Did I ever tell the story of The Good, Bad, and the Ugly on this podcast, or to you?
You did not explain it.
So at the end, the climax of Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, not the climax, but just before it, They have this huge scene where like the North is fighting the South in the Civil War, and they fight across this bridge and they blow it up. Like Clint Eastwood's character, and it just blows it up in order to stop the war. They had to do it twice when they were filming. Because the first time, like, Sergio Leone was, like, standing right beside the fucking bridge, basically, with the camera. And Clint Eastwood was like, you shouldn't be there. And then, like, he went away and no one turned the camera on. And when they blew up the bridge, a bunch of shit landed right where the camera was and fucking destroyed it.
Huh.
So they had to rebuild the bridge and blow it up a second time.
They had to rebuild all of New York and then blow it up twice.
For Escape from New York 2.
Oh my fucking god. That sounds really good, Jim. Like, that shit worries me. Even in this movie, they kept on destroying the hut they lived in. It kept on getting hit with meteors before it was proofed. But, like, every time that got destroyed, all I could think was some fucking intern or some dude on set had to put it all back together.
Or that scene where,
again.
like, Dennis Quaid finishes building the first shelter, and then Jerry's like, not sturdy. He's like, what do you mean? And he knocks on it, and then it falls over. How many times do you think it fell over, Dan? They had to put it back up and knock it over.
And it wasn't, like, it was actual shit. It tumbled down, and there was sticks and rocks and, like, I'm sure they were pieces of foam, but it was like, you balanced all that.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
This movie was great, and it had great character interaction and stuff, but it just looked so fucking expensive. It was like 75% of the movie is two dudes sitting in a hut talking.
That's it.
But the other 25% is like huge stark white space stations and huge sets that needed to be built for like 5-second scenes. And in the end, when they're in a mine and it's just like this gigantic fucking wasteland of shit going on, like mine carts moving around and big pits and like grates and like vantage points and stuff. It just looks so fucking expensive.
Yeah, the thing, I know you said it earlier, but it was like, wow, there's only one alien in this movie. And then at the end, they're like, no, there's actually a bunch of them, and they're all unique and all different. And
well, I could tell that
small and young.
Some of them looked exactly the same as the actors. So they might have taken like one of his heads, like one of his latex heads, and just stuck it on another actor or whatever.
You could see that.
But like, yeah, like that looks so expensive, and all their heads are all like jiggling and gyrating with the air sacs and stuff, and it's just like, holy shit, like getting this stuff together.
Yeah, it's
like,
pretty fucked. So when do you think Enemy Mine 2 is coming out? Sometime soon, probably? This
is like a movie. Here's the thing. This is what I always thought like remakes should be. Like they should like take something.
They should dredge up stuff that wasn't popular.
That's what I'm saying. They should dredge up movies that are like not very popular or had some good ideas that had like a lot of things wrong with them and then remake them like this. Because if you had Enemy Mine 2 Enemy Miner, and then like it's what's his name? It's the kids like growing up, and Dennis Quaid's old now because Dennis Quaid's still alive. I think he's like 70 or something now, and he's like a grandfather and stuff. And you could have like I'd like another like sequel to this movie. Like there's a lot of like untapped potential within this
There's
world.
There's a lot of
like,
lore and stuff. Like you saw the Drac homeworld and it looked really cool, and you can talk about how the war's ending because of all this stuff, but there's still like insurgency groups. It's got a lot to go on with it.
This is a lot more like good material to like expand from than fucking Ghostbusters, like that new fucking Ghostbusters film.
Sorry, I'm yawning thinking about Ghostbusters Afterlife. It came out of nowhere, and that's never a good sign. It's never a good sign when a movie that should be as big as that, you're just kind of talking about it, and I was like, oh, when's it coming out? Oh, it's been out for a week? Yikes. Like,
and that movie, like, I remember seeing the advert for that movie, like, 3 years ago.
Yeah, me
or
too.
Something.
And then it just went away.
I guess I got fucked because of COVID or whatever, but, like, Ghostbusters was a fluke. I think Red Letter Media is right when they said that, like, Ghostbusters was like 90% improv. I'm just these dudes being funny at the right time. And that movie had like no license to be any sort of like semblance of good. Like they just like lucked out by having these actors do like good improv on the day and then like all this other stuff. Every other Ghostbusters movie has fucking sucked. Ghostbusters 2 is shit. And then I watched the first 10 minutes of that Ghostbusters 2016 and made me want to fucking kill myself.
You haven't finished it?
Why would I watch that?
Jim, you have to watch it.
Well, you have to watch. Let's go. Let Dan drive over right now. We'll go see Ghostbusters Afterlife or whatever the fuck. And spoilers for this movie that I don't give a shit about because fuck you, I don't care about Ghostbusters. Harold Ramis comes back as a fucking ghost and tells them.
Obviously he does.
That's so fucking stupid. Like, if you're gonna make a sequel to Ghostbusters, like, have some nods to like
unique.
Whatever. I don't know. Like, put some new shit in it. That's the thing with like Star Wars and all this stuff that we keep talking about. It's just like Star Wars was good because it was new. Like, they took a bunch of like samurai movie aspects and Western aspects and old movie like ray gun science fiction aspects. They put it together to something new. And all the new Star Wars movies, the only one that I've liked of the movies a lot was Solo, because they put some new stuff in it. Mm-hmm. But, like, I think the worst one is the newest Star Wars movie, because that movie was fucking
I've stopped caring.
But the worst one of the worst ones that I just fucking hate is Rogue One, because that Rogue One movie was just, like, fucking stupid garbage. Like, it was just, like, a bunch of characters you don't give a fucking shit about, and, like, CGI characters like Grand Moff Tarkin and Leia, like, just like stuff you know. It's like member berries. And then it talks about that. It's like member berries. Remember this, remember that, remember this.
Remember that. What's Rogue One? What is it?
It's that movie where they stole the Death Star plans. And it was the whole thing of like...
Is it a Star Wars movie?
Yes.
What is it?
It came out right after the first Star Wars movie, the 2015 one. It came out like the year after. It's like a side
story?
Yeah, it's like a Star Wars. That's how they get the Death Star plans for the first movie. And when you're thinking... Like, okay. Dan, like, tell me, don't look up that movie. What do you think would be a good movie for, like, getting the Death Star plans?
I don't fucking know. They infiltrate the thing. No, I want a movie about the bad guys. I want a movie about bad guys that turn good, because they're like, wow, what's it called? The Republic and the
Resistance or whatever.
The bad ones. I'm talking about the bad ones. Is whatever they're called.
The Empire.
I want a movie about those guys. Make some new characters that are likable, and they're like, wow, we were kind of forced to join the Empire because they subjugated our planet, and now we realize, like, this is hell. We need to find a way to get off this place. And they start talking up with resistance groups, and then just make it one movie. Don't make it a franchise with 80 movies inside of it.
Yeah, that'd be good. Like a movie where they like, okay, we'll give you these planets, but you help us out of the Empire, and you save us or put us somewhere, or like a spy movie where they have to infiltrate and like get the plans and stuff. But no, Rogue One was fucking them just blowing shit up and doing Star Wars shit and just being fucking terrible. Like, just
do you want to know why they'll never stop making
new things? What did you just say? What did you say?
Do you want to know why they'll never stop making those movies? Do you want to know why?
Because it's member berries.
So the budget for that movie was $220 million, Jim. They made over $1 billion at the box office for Rogue One. That's why they'll never stop, Jim. That's why we're screaming into the abyss right now. We're screaming into the void.
It's like, I just want to see new stuff. Like, I didn't expect to just get bombarded with fucking superhero movies and stupid garbage.
Years.
And like,
years and years and years.
It's the same thing with video games that we've talked about. What we've been doing the last few years in video games, what I've talking to like my normie friends about this week too, is they're like, Jim, you were right when you said 5 years ago that video games were trying to turn into a fucking nightmare. I'm like, yeah. So all we're doing, like me and you, is we're either watching indie movies and indie films, playing old games, or watching old movies like Enemy Mine.
I started Fear this week. That's an old ass game.
And that's what we're done to. Like, it's either like little projects that don't have a lot of money because it's not being like sucked down by the public like a fucking siphon into a goddamn sewer, or like old stuff that's already released. Like, Enemy Mine is not a movie that would be like opening like beside like real big movies, and that's what I'm assuming that's what it did. Like, this seems like a movie that was like advertised, same with David Lynch's Dune and stuff, advertised and put out, and it's like a weird movie that's just like beside fucking like Ghostbusters, or like
no one's seeing this
or
over
like
Ghostbusters
shit like that
in the theaters.
And like that's the thing too, is that there's not a lot of like mid-tier movies or mid-tier like video games and stuff that are making the public. There's more now for the video games than there was in the last 10 years, but it's not like Aliens had a $16 million budget. Like, Aliens, like the sequel to Alien,
and they weren't even in a shack once. They weren't even sitting in a shack once.
They were literally like on like a planet with a bunch of shit, like shooting guns and like having like big effects and stuff. And they just had, like, they did it on $16 million, which for inflation is probably like $30-40 million nowadays. They made like so much money back. Like, there was all the movies and all this fucking garbage, just like studios going, here's all of our fucking money, every single fucking cent into this one film, and if it flops, we're fucked.
We're fucked.
It's just
What
idiocy.
was I talking about? Jim, do you want to know another thing? Even Ghostbusters 2016, it made nearly $100 million back.
No, it didn't. Because what was the budget for that film?
Budget was $150 million. It made $230.
Do you remember how much fucking advertising and sitting on
true.
TV shows and like all that fucking shit they did with that movie? I bet my bottom dollar they did not make their money back on that film, Dan.
When you're over Sunday, we're gonna watch Ghostbusters Answer the Call. We're the
Fuck
2016
you.
one.
We're not
You
watching
have
that.
to watch it. The guy's character in it, I forget his fucking name. He takes the place of the
Janine?
secretary from the
Yeah.
first one. Yeah, whatever. He's Thor.
Chris
What's the Thor?
Hemsworth?
Yeah, Chris Hemsworth. In that movie, it's not even like he's a stupid character, like he's a dope. It's like he needs to have a personal assistant, like he needs to have like an adult care worker with him. He's not okay. Like, he's playing the role so hard that he's stupid. It's like he would have problems living in the real world.
That's fucked.
But we're gonna watch it, and you're gonna say maybe you're gonna like it. Maybe
So-
open to things.
We've gone on some tangents. What is your last thoughts on Enemy Mine?
Enemy Mine is a product of its time.
Enemy Mine is a
it
great movie.
Really good. It's fantastic, and this movie shaped my childhood. I grew up thinking this movie was amazing, and then I
can
forgot
see
about it.
this is a very like your dad kind of movie, because I
Yes,
remember
it
when I
is.
first went over your house, because I have a big movie collection too, and so does your dad. Your dad just has like the weirdest fucking shit
He has
imaginable
shit
on
that
his
you can
shelves,
get at the bargain bin. He just does a million things.
and I can tell like this is a movie that he probably got like a DVD of, and he's like, that looked interesting, or maybe he did see it as a kid, but he watched it and he was like, oh fuck, that was really good. Like I miss some of that too. I'm doing it less and less now, where I used to like go to the movie store and be like, oh, that looks interesting, let me get that and watch it and have it be great. So maybe that's what happened with your dad.
It's hard as you get older. You want to use your money more wisely. Like the last time I buy board games, right? And board games are a big, expensive thing. Like
Yeah.
I do research. I read rule books before I get them, because it's like if I get something and I don't like it, it could be a waste of $70, $80, $90 even. And I haven't bought a board game without thoroughly looking into it since the second game that I bought.
Since
And it's a
Silk.
really good game since Seasons. Silk too, to an extent, just because I knew I had heard of it and it was so cheap. How could I?
You got
but,
Silk for like
yeah.
$20, right?
It was like on super clearance.
Silk is a video game. Silk is a board game where you are like a little
worm
you're a little
farmers.
worm farmer, and you move worms around the board. And me and Dan and Cassie play it, and Pat play it all the time, because it's just like
We
a
love
stupid
it.
little game, and it's very like ridiculous and stuff. Like it's fun to just vamp about. And some movies that I've watched, like Black Snake Moan, and
Black
like
Snake Moan.
I'm trying to think of another one, Badass, and like different movies like this that I just saw at the thing and I'm like, fuck, that looks interesting, let me get that. I just picked up one actually recently. I picked up The Woman in Black and like the Revisitor or something with Richard Jenkins, and I don't know anything about them, so I just picked them up because it was like they looked interesting, so hopefully they're good. I might watch one tonight. But my final thoughts on Enemy Mine, just like watch it. Watch it. Like it's an interesting goddamn film, and you might like it. It's gonna be weird. It's gonna be fucked. You're gonna watch a guy in a latex suit pushing a baby out of his abdomen, get a baby ripped out of his abdomen. It's very cool.
Jim, I think we're wrapping up on today's episode, but I'm already excited for the next one because I'm seeing all my Twitter feeds blowing up with all this Game Awards announcements, and I'm gonna have so many things to talk about.
We're gonna talk about that stuff, but I next episode we're not picking a topic. We're hopefully
Yes, it's the year-end one.
it's the year-end one. We're gonna cross our fingers that we can get Brandon and Patrick together for the year-end episode. And I came up with 6.
You've got a lot of stuff I saw, yeah.
I came up with 6 things that we're gonna talk about next time with the 4 of us. And it's probably gonna be a longer episode. It's probably gonna be over an hour. So the 6 topics are: favorite game you played for the first time this year. And everything is going to be like for the first time this year.
Yeah,
That's the caveat on this. And also, you can't pick Deep Rock Galactic.
You can't read Deep Rock.
And your favorite musician you got into this year, your favorite movie
that's
you
good.
watched this year, favorite TV show you watched this year, favorite book you read, and then like your favorite moment that you had this year.
Your favorite moment.
And that's going to be the big blowout, big episode of Shack Out Back. And it's actually going to come out like, because what is this? Today's the 9th. And then it'll come out
very close to Christmas.
It'll come out after Christmas. It'll come out the
little bit after?
27th, because this one's coming out on the 13th. It'll come out the 27th, but it won't be the end of the year, Dan.
Oh, that's so nice.
which will be good. Yeah, but I think that's it for episode 30 of Shack Out Back.
That's all.
Little low energy with Jim today. I got Radicus on my lap. He's rumbling up against my stomach, giving him some pets, calming down. But yeah, I'm getting my footy pajamas on. I'm crawling in the creaky bed. But yeah,
My cat is staring at me from across the room.
Ruby's looking at you. She's being backlit by the Manitoban moon as she stares at you through the snow.
That's beautiful. Closing up the shutters, and I'm gonna say goodnight to the world.
What do I want to talk about? What I'm gonna fade out on me talking about like what I have installed in terms of Steam games on my computer right now. I'm just gonna fade out.
Honey Pop 1, Honey Pop 2.
2, Big Titty game number 27.
Sex Seduction Summer, that game that I said.
I have. I'm just gonna say some and then fade out. Alien Isolation, A Medieval, Bayonetta, The Cat Lady, Deus Ex, Disco Elysium, Divinity 2, Dread X Collection 2 and 5 or 4, Elder Scrolls 3.
Good night, darling.
Goodbye, Jill.
Bye-bye.
Good night, Dan.
Good night, everybody.
You saved my life. Why?
Maybe I need to look at another face, even as ugly as yours.